In November 2018, over 1 million people watched live as a Chinese scientist stepped up to a podium in Hong Kong and casually announced that he had done something no human being had ever done before. He had edited the DNA of human babies. The world's top geneticists sat in stunned silence. Nobel laureates called it monstrous. One bioethicist declared it the most significant and potentially terrifying thing I've seen in my 25-year career. Somewhere in China, twin girls named Lulu and Nana were already a month old, the first genetically modified humans in history, and their creator believed he deserved a Nobel Prize. He Jiankui was born in 1984 to a family of poor rice farmers in Hunan province, southeastern China. From the beginning, people around him noticed something different about this boy. Teachers called him brilliant. Classmates said he was ambitious, obsessively so. He reportedly told people he dreamed of becoming China's Einstein. In 2006, he graduated from one of China's most elite universities, the University of Science and Technology of China. But for someone with his ambitions, China wasn't enough. He wanted America. He arrived at Rice University in Houston, Texas, where he earned his PhD in biophysics in just 4 years, an unusually fast timeline. His dissertation was on protein evolution, and his advisor, Professor Michael Deem, later called him a very high-impact student. After Rice, he moved to Stanford University for his postdoctoral research. There, under the guidance of renowned bioengineer Stephen Quake, he studied single-cell analysis and began learning about a revolutionary new technology that would change his life forever. CRISPR-Cas9, the genetic scissors that could edit DNA like a word processor edits a document. Scientists were calling it the most important biotechnological discovery in decades, and He Jiankui saw an opportunity. In 2012, he returned to China under the government's prestigious Peacock Plan, a program designed to lure back talented scientists with promises of funding, labs, and freedom to pursue ambitious research. He received over $1 million in startup money and a faculty position at the Southern University of Science and Technology in Shenzhen. Within just a few years, He Jiankui became a rising star, not just in science but in business. He founded at least 7 biotech companies and amassed a fortune worth over $500 million. He was living his dream, but for someone who wanted to be the Chinese Einstein, it still wasn't enough. He didn't just want to be rich, he wanted to make history. To understand what He Jiankui did next, you need to understand his stated justification. In China, HIV-positive men face severe discrimination. They're often denied the ability to have children through IVF, in vitro fertilization. He claimed he wanted to help these families. His plan centered on a gene called CCR5. This gene produces a protein on the surface of immune cells that HIV uses as a doorway to infect them. But here's the thing. About 1% of people of Northern European descent are born with a natural mutation, a 32 base pair deletion, that essentially locks that door. These people are largely resistant to HIV infection. This mutation had already been used in medicine. In 2009, a man named Timothy Ray Brown, the Berlin patient, received a bone marrow transplant from a donor with this mutation. He became the first person ever cured of HIV. The medical world was fascinated. He Jiankui saw an opportunity to go further, much further. Sometime in late 2017 or early 2018, he began secretly recruiting couples through a Beijing-based AIDS advocacy group. The deal was simple. HIV-positive fathers and HIV-negative mothers would receive free IVF treatment. In exchange, he would use CRISPR to edit their embryos. The consent forms the couples signed were deeply problematic. They described the experiment as an AIDS vaccine development project, a blatant misrepresentation of what was actually happening. The forms conflated research with therapy, suggesting parents would likely benefit. In reality, there was almost no medical benefit. The babies weren't at significant risk of HIV infection anyway, since the fathers weren't passing the virus through sperm and IVF. 8 couples enrolled. His team took sperm and eggs, fertilized them in the lab, and then, at the single-cell stage, injected the CRISPR machinery. They were attempting to disable CCR5 entirely. 31 embryos were injected. 21 showed signs of editing. In November 2018, Twin girls were born to one of these couples. According to He, they were healthy. He gave them pseudonyms, Lulu and Nana. The world's first genetically modified humans had arrived, and almost nobody knew. He had told no one at his university what he was doing. Officially, he'd been on unpaid leave since February 2018. The ethics approval certificate he obtained was later found to be forged. The hospital listed on the documents denied any involvement. Even the doctors who implanted the embryos reportedly didn't know they had been genetically modified. He Jiankui had conducted the most consequential human experiment in decades, completely in the shadows. November 25, 2018. The Second International Summit on Human Genome Editing was about to begin in Hong Kong. The world's top geneticists, bioethicists, and policymakers had gathered to discuss whether and when it might ever be acceptable to edit human embryos for reproduction. He Jiankui was scheduled to speak, but his talk was supposed to be about the ethics of embryo editing and his experiments on mice and monkeys. Nothing about human babies. Then on the morning of November 25th, everything unraveled. Investigative journalist Antonio Regalado at MIT Technology Review had been digging through Chinese clinical trial registries. He found something He Jiankui had carelessly posted online, descriptions of a human embryo editing project. The story broke. The secret was out. Scrambling to control the narrative, he immediately released a series of YouTube videos, filmed weeks earlier, anticipating this moment. Two beautiful little Chinese girls named Lulu and Nana came crying into the world as healthy as any other babies a few weeks ago. He was smiling. He seemed to expect congratulations. He compared himself to Robert Edwards, the scientist who developed IVF and won the Nobel Prize. He believed he was on the right side of history. That same morning, CRISPR pioneer Jennifer Doudna, one of the scientists who invented the technology he had used, received an urgent message. He wanted to meet her privately before his summit presentation. When they sat down in the hotel lobby, he asked her, was it okay that he dropped this news without mentioning the babies in his planned talk? Doudna was reportedly stunned. This was the day before her conference. He had hijacked the entire event. On November 28th, He Jiankui walked into a room of 700 scientists. Over 1 million people watched online. He apologized not for the experiment itself, but for the fact that this result was leaked unexpectedly. He then defended his work for nearly an hour, facing increasingly hostile questions. When asked if he understood the potential consequences for the children, he said he was proud of what he'd done. Nobel laureate David Baltimore, the summit's chair, was the first to respond. His words were devastating. I don't think it has been a transparent process. We've only found out about it after it's happened. I personally don't think it was medically necessary. The scientific establishment unleashed its fury. Jennifer Doudna said she was horrified. Oxford bioethicist Julian Savulescu called it monstrous. Stanford bioethicist Henry Greeley declared, I unequivocally condemn the experiment. Summit organizer Alta Charo delivered perhaps the harshest critique, calling He's work misguided, premature, unnecessary, and largely useless. She pointed out that the babies were never at significant risk of HIV anyway. The fathers were positive, not the mothers, and standard IVF procedures already prevent transmission. He was scheduled to speak again the next day. He never showed up. Within 48 hours, he had vanished from public view entirely. The Chinese government moved swiftly. Within days, authorities suspended all of He's research activities, calling his work extremely abominable in nature. He was sequestered in a university apartment under surveillance. His university, which claimed to have known nothing about the experiment, fired him. An investigation determined that he had defied government bans and conducted the research in pursuit of personal fame and gain. On December 30th, 2019, a Chinese court found He Jiankui guilty of illegal medical practice. The verdict revealed something else. A third gene-edited baby had been born in 2019. The court sentenced He to 3 years in prison and fined him 3 million yuan, roughly $430,000. Two of his collaborators, Zhang Renli and Qin Jinzhou, also received prison sentences, though lighter ones. The court ruled that all three had deliberately violated national regulations on biomedical research and rashly applied gene editing technology to human reproductive medicine. But here's what haunts scientists to this day. The experiment may not have even worked properly. The bottom line, He Jiankui created 3 children with genetic modifications whose long-term effects are completely unknown. He Jiankui was released from prison in April 2022. He took up golf. Then something unexpected happened. Thousands of patients with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, a devastating genetic disease with no cure, began contacting him. They'd heard about his gene editing work. They wanted his help. He has since set up a new lab on the outskirts of Beijing. He claims to be working on a CRISPR-based treatment for muscular dystrophy, a legitimate medical goal that many labs are pursuing. But his methods remain controversial, and many scientists are deeply skeptical of his ability to conduct ethical, rigorous research. Somewhere in China, 3 children carry genetic modifications that were never meant to exist. Their creator believed he was changing the world for the better. The world isn't so sure. The CRISPR babies case is just one of many scientific scandals that have shaken academic integrity. If you want to see how research fraud nearly destroyed an entire field of cancer research, click here to watch our video on the Harvard lab scandal that led to 38 paper retractions. And if this story made you think differently about the future of genetic technology, let us know in the comments. Do you think human gene editing should ever be allowed?